Welcome everyone back to Pommy and Oz. Hope we're all doing really well. I hope we're refreshed after the weekend. We've had the grand final, Collingwood are premiers. Congratulations to them. We move on now. Now it's the off season. Now we're all engaged and now we look towards the trade and the draft. Make sure you tune in. We're going to have a daily show. Times will change, but this week it'll be 8:30 tonight. Me and Leg Dog on a new show called Trade Busters. We'll get some special guests through. We'll discuss all your off-season moves, a lot of in-depth reviews of the rules as well, so you can get your head around that. A lot of misinformation around father-son bidding, particularly if you're a Carlton fan. There's a lot of nuffies out there who are telling you stuff that isn't right. So if you want to like and subscribe, that's the first thing you can do for me. You can become a member of the channel. And in the Draftee Watch, what we're going to do is from your feedback last week, it was quite condensed. We're going to do them in 10 at a time. We'll timestamp it in the comments so the players that you're interested in, you can have a look at and do it at your own leisure. So let me know if this is a bit of an easier medium than me clogging up your notifications. But we're going to be covering Harley Reid, Jed Walter, Colby McKercher, Zane Duursma, Nick Watson, Dan Curtin, Ryley Sanders, Ethan Reid, Nate Caddy and Connor O'Sullivan today in this episode. So without any further ado, let's get into it. And here is your Bendigo's Pioneers boy, Harley Reid. Probably the most talked about player in this draft. We always have one every year that is really fed and drip fed through the media. And Harley, love him or hate him, he's that guy. 185, 85 kegs and he's a mid-forward. And this guy has been really sensational this year. We've got to be honest with it. The numbers that you can see there are his NAB League, or the Talent League as it's now known as. But this guy here has played just about everywhere you'd expect, really. In the levels, he's played the NAB League, as we know. He's played in the VFL 3 games, played for Essendon and Carlton, and obviously he excelled at the under-18s championships. And he is a superstar in every sense of the word. We'll go pick 1 to 3, depending on if someone does something stupid. You never know. But he is really rambustious. He's strong in the contest. He has got an absolute turn of class. X-Factor in every sense of the word. He's shown he can play multiple positions in the series. And as you can see here, his numbers are exceptional. Do you know what I mean? 6 games in that NAB, 18.5 disposals, 4.3 marks, 3.3 tackles, 2 goals a game. At the National Championships, it continued 19.5 touches. 12 were contested as well. The 6.5 clearances, 6.3 score involvements, 1.3 goals. And there's nothing really he can't do. He really looked exciting, particularly if you go back and watch that Essendon versus VFL game. He was absolutely sensational. He had the 24 touches and he looked like he could cope with the bigger bodies straight away. The clubs that might be interested in him, we've put some interesting ones here. Obviously, North, Eagles, and with a bit of moving around, potentially Hawthorn, definitely would suit what they're trying to build. Melbourne are the interesting one here. So, Gold Coast are going to be one of these teams that are going to be heavily talked about in this because there's a few players that feature in this 10 who will be subject to NGA bidding rules. Obviously, the northern states, they can keep him. And that is a real important one there, that if some teams try and manoeuvre there and then try and sniff and pick one from West Coast Eagles, that could be something that is very interesting to watch out for. But he really is a plug-in, plug-play type player. As you can see, we've put franchise player there in his standout traits, the X-Factor, the power through the core. He is ready to play AFL football from now, and he's going to be a real sought-after talent. There is some talk about, like his defensive running, his defensive patterns. I don't quite see it. I mean, when you're watching under-18s, you're looking for certain things. I like to see how they play in a team. I think that's a really important thing. Go back to see Nick Dacos versus Jason Horne-Francis. I was very hot on that ability to bring players in. Harley Reid is an absolute terrific footballer and will be one that definitely will be highly sought out of. And the hype is real with this kid. Them systems there as well. Very good systems. But he'll be a player that definitely is sought after. Jed Walter up next. The key forward. And this kid can play football. He is absolutely an excitement machine. And they have got, arguably, if this draft was done and we did have equality, where we didn't have these silly little NGA rules, great argument that this kid is pick 1. So, in the Talent Academy, 4 games, 18.3 disposals, 5.5 marks, 3 tackles, 4.5 goals. That is ridiculous. An absolute goal magnet in the Talent League this year. And that's from the 4 games. In the National Championships, he backed that up. Just under 8 scoring involvements, 3 contested marks, 7 marks a game for just under 3 goals. And this guy here is your modern day forward. What we're seeing every day. And look at the height on him. 195, 91 kegs. He is a very strong mark. He is powerful through the core. He is quick. He is versatile. He's got an absolute beautiful kicking technique. He will probably be 1 to 3, and Gold Coast are going to have to match these bids. He is sensational footballer, an absolute modern day dream for a list manager. List managers will look at this guy and go, yeah, that's what I'm about. He was fantastic in the NAB League. Like we said, the Under-18s Championship. He is tied to the Gold Coast Suns Academy. He probably suits everyone in the top 10, to be honest. Way NGA works, though, that you ain't going to get them when you're one of the northern suburbs and the northern states. But an absolute complete footballer, very akin to Max King, Charlie Kerner, even Jeremy Cameron. You can see there he really works up the ground as well quite hard. He's a real good conduit as well. He's one of these rare key forwards that in the right system you can play him with a bigger body, keep him out there. So mirroring that up with Ben King and playing the third, which we know is kind of in Dimmer's playbook. He'll get game time very early and he'll be absolutely sensational. Probably in his own right, one of these players that is worthy of being pick 1. The way that the system works, though, genuinely you don't quite see these NGAs get bid on in the first round. Why? I don't know. Up next is Colby McKercher. It isn't a POM preview without us looking at a Tassie boy, and I am excited about this kid. This kid here can play football, and the big thing about Colby is how quick he is. He is an absolute pace merchant. He breaks out. He is evasive. He can find space in a crowded elevator. Real nice kick. He's got an absolute, that footy IQ, that nous that few players have who can actually see the play before it happens. And he's tough to boot. So as you can see, the 8 games in the Coates Talent League this year, he was a real standout for Tassie. 30.6 disposals. He's a ball magnet. The 5 marks, the 3.6 tackles. And he can also run in. And his goal kicking is really good. And it's something that he has put on a lot of time into. Toughness as well. At the National Champs, he played the 4 games, the 32.8 touches there. The 8 ground ball gets, the 6 marks, the 4 tackles, the 1 goal a game, the 2 score assists. He brings players in, and he's a natural leader as well. You can see that he really gets the players in. And one thing is, he's a high floor player. So for me, I've got him 1 to 5, and that suits teams like North, Melbourne. Hawthorn will be looking at this pick and going, please, please, please vote to me. Depends what North do with them 2 and 3, which they're suspected to get for Mackay and pick 3. Sydney as well would probably utilise him, but this kid here has got it. And probably any other draft year would be the pick 1. I am very hot on this kid. You know that I love the Tassie boys, and there's a reason they don't get the kudos that they probably should do. Colby, to get this high, shows how good he is. Remember last year I said that there's the Tassie tax, deduct 10 picks from where he should go. Let that sink in. This kid is very good. Definitely got the engine as well to work on the outside, early doors in the AFL, swinging into the mid, maybe being that auxiliary third that we've seen Cam McKenzie do so well for Hawthorn this year as they try and get him in and around the ball. But this guy has got everything you want, and this could be one of them things that if you're looking at how to develop him in the seniors, maybe slot him across half forward, get him really working into that inside 50, real deep penetrating kick. But this kid here can play football, and one that if any of them teams that are listed there pick him up will be supreme. Zane Duursma, you've heard the name. We know that This kid is going around there, and he is literally X Factor galore. Very similar to his brother in the fact that you see him, you know him, you're like, wow, this kid can play. 189 centimetres, 80 kegs, playing that high half forward, has played that little pocket forward as well, running from deep. That's a real synonymous part of his game when he gets forward, that he runs from the pocket, he leads from there, which we know causes chaos in the modern day system. In the Courts League, we saw him 12 games, 19.3 touches, 6.3 marks, 3.3 tackles, and going at a sensational 2.8 goals a game. He is the real deal, and he also performed in the VFL, which showcased a little bit of his talent. He didn't quite blow it up, the 2 games there, but that being said, he did show enough to show that he's got just them little bits that you might need to see. Do you know what I mean? He played for Casey, who are a very good affiliate, and could be one of them teams that may be sneaking, but do they need it? Teams that will look at this guy, North Melbourne, St Kilda, Hawthorn, definitely. Imagine pairing this kid up with Dylan Moore. And Richmond definitely would look at this kind of kid, and he suits their mould. 1 to 5 is his projected. It's always hard, but this guy here as well, for someone 189, his ability to launch from the ground is incredible. His ability around the ground is absolutely insane, incredibly tough. And also his ability to kick goals. He's a very crafty player. In the NAB Championships, he played the 4 games, and he also showcased the results that you see playing for his regular club side. Just under 2 goals a game, just under 2 score assists a game, 6 score involvements, 3.5 tackles, generating 4 inside 50s, and also pinch hit around the middle. And he's a point of difference in that midfield, which is something that a lot of the teams are displaying now. We've seen Tom Papley go on the ball. These points of difference, these players that can hurt you and forward of the ball. And this guy here is really understated because of all the media hype around the other guys. Zane Duursma is an absolute terrific footballer, and one that I can't wait to see in the system. And he is good to go. Nick Watson is one of the more interesting prospects in here. And I'll tell you for why. No one talks about him. And why don't they talk about him? When you're called the Wizard by your mates at Eastern Ranges, there is probably a reason. And this guy, I would describe him as kind of like a Jack Ginnivan type footballer, but with high levels of consistency. 170, 68. His speed and his explosion from a standing start is insane. He plays very like a very young Eddie Betts with the way that he just moves and he's gone. And he's an out-and-out goal-scoring player. He is really dangerous. But one thing that is really impressive about him is his ability to bring players into the game forward of the ball and front and centre. His ability to stay front and centre of aerial contests really stands out. And his positioning is next level. It's A1. With the 6 games, the 22.2 disposals, playing higher up the ground, particularly in the Courts League this year. 4.3 marks, 2.8 tackles, the 1.3 goals, and this transcended again, right, into the national championships when he played for his state. And that is something that always stands out there. When he played for Vic Metro, it really stood out. And he had 3.5 goals from the 4 games on average. 1 score assist, 7.3 score involvements, and the 12.3 disposals. Played more that traditional forward line. He was named in the under-18s. And interesting enough, when he was at the junior side, he did at Eastern Ranges start the year at halfback, which also warps them figures early. But a real versatile player here, real give-and-go player. His skill set is incredible. Foot candy galore. It's like going to a sweet shop with $1. That is what it's like. There is options galore, and a terrific footballer, and one that really does suit that Port Adelaide, that Melbourne, that St Kilda, and that Richmond, who I do think they would be looking for someone around there. 3 to 10 is where we've got him scheduled. He is one of the guys that's slightly sliding, but this kid here is an absolute terrific footballer, and one that will be intriguing to see what someone takes. Probably the most talked about player, Mr. Clermont's Daniell Curtin, and at 195, 94 kegs, this kid is very, very versatile, and one that I think will have a big say in any potential trade with pick 1. And playing down the back, he's even pinch hit forward. He went this year versus some of the best keys forwards in this game and was incredibly, incredibly strong and really stood out. Towards the end of the year, they started to play him in the middle of the park, particularly in the Western Australian State League games, and you really showcase this as the new niche of being a bigger body. There's a lot of Mark Blitzarbs about this player. Lots when I look at him, and he's one of these players that I really am excited about what AFL clubs do with him. I personally think when he comes into the system, the best place to have him is definitely as that intercept mark. I feel like they've done a little bit of Brodie Kemp with him. We didn't get to see it all with Brodie Kemp because of the injury in his draft year, but I think that is his skill set. He's versatile, he's strong, he's quick, he's got high IQ. He invariably uses the ball very, very well as well. He's a real sought-after project. He fits West Coast list to a T with what they've lost and what they can bring in. An absolute fantastic footballer. North may look at him. They definitely need key backstocks. Is it too early for him? I don't think it is. I think in a team like North you could be. Gold Coast would definitely love a guy of this ilk. We know that their key backs probably a little bit to desire, particularly that penetration coming out the back. Hawthorn definitely, mirroring this with James Sicily, the best in the league at what he does, would be a dream. This kid here can play football and got him 1 to 10. This is a tough one of what teams do. I can see him going very early. I could actually see him going, if I could see a deal with North and West Coast going on and him being pick 3, maybe pick 2. This kid can play football, but incredible project this if you pick him up in your team because he can play a multitude of positions. And I tell you, I've got Mark Blitzarb's vibes about him that you could literally play him anywhere. Probably the most talked about outside of the top 5 player in the history of the game. Why? Because North have tried everything to break the rules, right? And this guy here is the Lark Medal winner, which always comes in, and he absolutely stood out for his allies' side. Tassie born, Sandy Dragons bred. An absolute incredible midfielder that can slot across the half-forward line if you want. Played the 6 games at the National Championships and was incredibly, incredibly standout there. He also got some time at the Under-18 Championships, but these are his Under-18 numbers, and as you can see, 6 games, 32.3 disposals, 3.3 marks, 4.8 tackles, and 0.7 goals a game. He'll go around that 5 to 10 mark. A lot of people saying that maybe North Melbourne take him early. I can see it, but I don't think they will. I think they'll try and fish something around his mark. 186 centimetres, 85 kegs, and probably, again, one of these players that is plug and play. If you need a 3rd, 4th midfielder, he's ready. I've got Melbourne there, I've got Hawthorn there, I've got North there, definitely a bit bigger because they've been talking about him. Magnet. Plays with his own football half the time. Very evasive, very clean. Incredible footy IQ as well. He gives me shades of a very young Scott Pendlebury. And what I mean by that is how he finds time. But he's also got that real thuggishness. So he's somewhere between like a Jack Viney strength on the ball and a Christian and a player like Pendlebury. At the National Championships, he played the 4 games and he had 50% contested possessions, which is insane. 6.3 marks, 5 clearances, 1 goal a game, and 8 score involvements. This guy is the complete midfielder, and this is a really exciting prospect, and one that, like I say, highly touted, and everyone knows him because of the NGA rule and North not having access to him. But in himself, if you can snag him away from North, which you will be able to in this draft, you do it 9 times out of 10. And this is going to be a real intriguing position, particularly for teams like Melbourne who are pick 5. This is probably, if he's there, you bite the bullet on him, right? Do you know what I mean? You bite the bullet on him, knowing that you've got a pretty much of a free ride in there. It's going to be a very interesting one, but Ryley Sanders is exciting. Up next, Ethan Reid, and by a mile, the best ruckman in the comp. Gives me massive, massive looks at the type of player that Kind of reminds me a little bit like Timmy English already. He has slotted down the back as well for the Gold Coast Academy. But 287 kegs. This kid is an absolute terrific footballer. And he also got some VFL time for that, for the state, for Gold Coast, where he did show well. He had 5 marks, 12 touches, and also pinch hitting the ruck, which as a baby in the VFL is insane. But let's look at his NAB League, his Coates League numbers. They are really impressive in themselves. 4 games, 20 disposals, 6 marks, 2.5 tackles, and 19.5 hitouts. When he went and played in the National Championships, he backed that up. 13 hitouts, 7.5 marks, 22 disposals, 2.5 clearances, 3 tackles, and 6 score involvements. Just under 0.5 goals a game. This kid here does that Max Gawn thing of he rests behind the ball and becomes that kind of backstop. Very good aerially, very mobile, and also uses the pill for such a big guy very importantly. As he puts size on and as he fills himself out, you could see this guy being definitely a guy that you play as a 2-dual player in the terms of he has another role and he plays in ruck. And this is really intriguing that he's going to Gold Coast because he's going to be doing that with bigger rucks already and going to be in a good system. Huge scope to develop this guy by a country mile. Gold Coast having access to 2 players we've talked about already in very hard spots to fill is very, very exciting for Gold Coast. He fits just about half the team as well. Look, we've got Melbourne there, we've got Hawthorn. They'd all love him. It's not going to happen. Gold Coast will definitely grab this guy. 5 to 10, a bid will come in. It has to. Country mile the best ruck. Get excited. My favourite player in this draft, I talk about this kid quite a lot, Nate Caddy. And he has excelled, played a bit of VFL time, as you know, for the Blues. Got 1 goal in them 3 games, played in that forward pocket, did showcase his defensive output and also his willingness to lead for the ball. But at under 18s at the Coates League, he really did showcase at Northern Knights. And you know I'm a sucker for Northern Knight boys. 9 games, 16.3 disposals, 6.2 marks, 2.4 tackles. And that's 2.8 goals. It says hitouts. Ignore that. 2.8 goals. Movement. His ability to understand where he is in the forward line at all times is absolutely insane. And his goal sense, he can kick them from just about anywhere. It's really stand out when you watch him play, particularly when he played in the championships. His ability to bring players into the game and his ability to feed off and give like Joe the Gooses and things like that. At 192, 91 kegs, he's definitely the type of player that every team is looking for at the moment. That third tall who can play a little bit undersized. It is literally how the modern day game's played. And he is an absolute dynamo when he's looking in and around the ball. He's got an absolute vertical leap that makes basketballers feel inadequate. The 3 games of the National Championships, he showcased his defensive craft as well. 5 tackles, 6 score involvements, 2 goals. That is really important to understand as well. He's got the understanding of the pressure, the natural pressure, and he did pinch hit on the ball at times this year in the National League, in the Coates League. This kid is complete and got everything that you could expect. I've got him going 5 to 10. Carlton, GWS, St Kilda and Richmond, if they get into that first round, will definitely be looking at a player of this ilk, particularly Richmond, who I could see them trading a few cogs out here to try and maximise their draft hand. Could be an interesting little feeling here there, but Nate Caddy is definitely the player that if you've got 2 key forwards and you want a third, you get him. And finally, Connor O'Sullivan, Mr. Consistency, and definitely one of them players to look out for in this draft. He is a very, very, very astute little footballer. Playing in that key position role, the first key defender we're looking at naturally, and this kid here gives me shades of a very, very young Jacob Wheater in the way he plays. He has swung up forward, but you can see here in the Coates League this year, his numbers are insane. 9 games, 20.4 disposals for Murray Bushrangers, 7 marks, 3.2 tackles, 2.1 intercept marks as well. Really attacks the ball hard. One-on-one, he's brilliant. His kicking and his read of the game are absolutely exceptional. And aerially, like I say, this kid can play. He's very rarely beaten. His ability as well to understand where to be in a marking contest, to attack the ball from that marking contest, or to fall back and see it's going to go through the pack, shouldn't be underestimated. A real top 10 talent, and that was backed up in the National Championships, playing against the best players in the league. 18 touches, 8.3 marks, 2.5 intercepts, 6.8 intercept possessions, and 3 rebound 50s in the 4 games. A real standout. He'll suit Essendon, Adelaide, GWS, and the Doggies who are looking for this. The Jed Busslinger hasn't quite paid off yet for West Coast Eagles. This guy is probably a bit more ready to go and a real exciting talent. So let me know what you think of him. But that is the first 10. Let me know if you like the series. I can chop these up as well and make them individual ones. So let me know. But much love, everyone. Thank you very much for your love and support. See you for the next 10. Pom out.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad.